How many of you have missed the opportunities just because you couldn't speak the right words? That sales call which you thought would get you the deal, that presentation which you thought would become viral, that conversation with your manager which you thought would give you a promotion. We all go through this on a daily basis, and it's a universal problem no matter which domain you are in. That's the exact problem Ajitesh Abhishek is solving. Today I've joined with Ajitesh Abhishek, who's going to help us understand the platform, the motivation behind building the tool, and much more. Stay tuned. Thank you so much, Ajitesh, for taking time and joining a call with me. I've been following ToughTongue for quite some time. Really intriguing product. I thought maybe I should get into a podcast session with you, get a high-level understanding of the solution, product, features, capabilities, and the motivation behind creating something like this. So maybe if you can give a quick 30 seconds introduction, and then we can jump into the discussion of ToughTongue.
Yeah, so Ajitesh, I have been engineer, developer in the past, and product manager most recently. I was part of Google Cloud for the last 4 years, and most recently part of Gemini and Gemini application team in the Google Cloud. And that's where I saw like huge uptick in usage of Gemini across like different spectrum, but coding was the main thing that was taking off. So I started some side projects with one of the engineering director, and that made we built Aate, which was a PR review solution. It was doing like decent, but we thought we were always behind catching up. And there are a lot of big pound gorillas out there and making a lot of good progress. And voice was just round the corner, and the technology was becoming more sound. And so I was debating like what to do next. And so I had to shut down Archie in any case. So then I built a demo for myself that how can I have a tough conversation to shut down the business. And I built it in 2 days, and I really liked the experience. I showed it to my co-founder, and he also liked it. And we then just released it within a week, and we got good feedback, and we continued thereon. Initial ideas was that in situations where you are stuck and you have to like communicate in a high stake situation, how do you practice without judgment and all? And that was the initial seed of this idea.
Interesting. You built the first MVP in less than a week and put it in the hands of the actual users?
Yeah, it was like 1 week before Christmas, and there was a wave of a lot of people building within the holidays. An idea was that within the 10 days, you try something new. If it works, it works. If it does not work, like after January, you go back to the real thing. So I was like, okay, it's the holidays, let's try building and see. So every day I was posting, interacting with people, and because voice was new and this idea was also a bit novel and name was funny, there's some combination of it that I started getting some traction, like people messaging me that they found it useful. Could you make it for this particular scenario? Could you change it this way? And I was like, okay, I'm in holiday mode anyway, so I'm not looking for business at this point. I'm looking to just build. So that gave me some room to really build. And by January 1st week, I had now settled that, okay, could be something. Let's think through what to build. And from there on, change some course, but mostly.
We're talking about December of 2024 now.
December of 2024, yes.
Okay, that's awesome. So from a technical perspective, let's just say I somehow figured out ToughTongue can help me out. What is it that I need to do once I land into the platform?
Yeah, there are a couple of things. What we do is build a voice AI agent that is really powerful in doing a reasoning heavy conversation. For example, if let's say you want to do sales call and all, there are generally voice modulation and other things which it has to get it right or accuracy. For tough conversation, you need to get reasoning really right. Like you're explaining something, you're reflecting. It has to be multimodal, understands like audio, your modulation and all. And the third thing is tools are very different. Like maybe it needs a diagramming tool, notes tool, and those things. So we are building a powerful voice agent and then a platform where you can come and create scenarios for you. We already have some first-party scenarios, for example, job interviews or communicating with your manager. And your manager could be like 8 types, right? Some managers are really hands-on, some could be really distanced, and your interaction has to be very different in these contexts. So you could create scenario, but we have some first-party scenario created that we understand from the domain standpoint based on my experience, my co-founder experience. But we have given you a platform where you could provide your knowledge base, let's say your past sales transcript, your past interaction, where you are in your career, to create a scenario and role play with it. And then we give some tools to agent to analyze the conversation, to make things more engaging for you during this interaction. So that's a two-part, like a voice agent that is powerful, good at these kind of conversation. And second is a platform where you could create a conversation. Some conversation we provide off the shelf, but you could create on your own based on what data you have.
When you say knowledge-based voice agent, right? Are we talking about voice pre-recorded somewhere else? Help me understand.
Yeah, so this is also evolving for us. When we started, it was mostly like your preference. Maybe you are in a situation where you have not been able to communicate with a manager about promotion, and your manager is someone who is really busy and is not doing one-on-one and things. So you provide that very small context. Then we evolved that, okay, now you, let's say you are in a sales meeting, or let's say you have had three, four conversation with your manager, and you have some minutes of meeting. So you can provide that as a context to the agent, and it's still stateless. Like one interaction is where it will take everything into account, including your knowledge base, and give you some suggestion. Now we have slowly added a memory that, okay, we will record important conversation if you come back tomorrow and day after. So it will become more personalized and intelligent with you, similar to what like ChatGPT memory is, but perhaps they are more advanced in that. But we are adding this context to the LLM. But basic one is very simple, that who you are, what your goals is, who you are interacting with, to make the conversation a reality. Now that you could bring an audio file, you could bring a YouTube video. We provide easy way to upload PDF, YouTube audio, and these things to provide context to the agent.
That's so awesome. And especially in the times where technical skills are easily replaceable, or coding is something that can be easily written by an AI assistant, communication is becoming more relevant, because back in days you have to be 50% technically strong, 50% strong in soft skills. And then slowly that line between 50-50 is becoming small. It's all about talk. Talk is cheap, show me the code. Now people are saying code is cheap, show me the talk, give me the talk. I think you identified a right problem, and a lot of people have confidence issues. Even if they practice a lot, when they actually get into the real stage, they can't do it.
True, like a lot of salespeople and other whatever theory you practice, what you do on the end when you are in the call is really critical. And in some ways, thoughts is also how clear you are in through concept. For example, let's say you are thinking about your next MBA application or a job switch, and you have to communicate clearly what your values are, what you are looking for the role. You also, as you think through and practice, you also refine your story, like what you are going to say, and you understand yourself much better. And so there are some things that we are doing. For example, story bank. We have given a star framework to a coach, and it will help you refine your stories. But as you practice with it, maybe you'll know that, okay, this story does not fit, or is not who I am, and this better represents me. And as you become clear in your thoughts, your communication plus practice, of course, will give you better results.
Okay. Do you have enterprise customers and end customers?
We have paid end customers. So we just started charging subscription last week, but we privately started putting price tag on certain things. We have few medium-sized customer, mid-market. Okay. We are working with 2 large enterprises on pilot, but it has been going for a couple of 4+ weeks now. Will take some time. One of the things that we have to do all the time is to understand the knowledge base. So let's say you have done, so one of the company we are working with is a Europe-based company, and they do a lot of sales negotiation, procurement negotiation. They buy equipments. So then we have to listen through this like conversation that has happened in the past and make it realistic in their scenario, which takes time, and then different stakeholders and all. So we are working through, in their case, how they could do better negotiation for price with their procurement.
If an enterprise is looking at it, they really like the solution, they want to onboard ToughTongueAI into their organization, they would have to directly work with you to make it much more tailored to their organization to address their problem. Is that a fair understanding?
True. And the second aspect is tech-wise also we are doing air gap solution for them. And not many people are comfortable with a SaaS-based model where goes to LLM and they don't control the boundary of it. So we will deploying in their VPC. So that's the technical part, which is easy, but other part is working. Either someone in their team should have knowledge to write these scenarios really well, but in most cases now we are also learning, working with them. Maybe some feature has to be built.
With any solution which has generative AI component, should have all the clauses that indemnify a typical organization. Can you talk about what our ToughTongueAI is doing in terms of, let's just say, if they wanted to onboard a customer or an enterprise, what type of indemnification can ToughTongue offer today?
Yeah, that's something that we are learning at this point. But one of the things that we stand is because it's not a customer facing in the pilot, the bar versus something that is deployed to end customer is really high. What people want in our case is that this should be really clear that what data is going to model, what data model is getting trained on, and what data you are using. And of course, like you should be able to delete all the data. So these are regular questions that come up, which we have codified that, okay, any point you want, you can delete all the data that we store. In the case of model, there are some data that will be used that is going to them, but is not being used for training on the model that we use, but it depends. So these are the things that we get to at this point. We have not had this aspect where the liability lies, but maybe it will come up.
Enterprise customer in the Europe region, and the solution is available across the globe. As we are talking about AI, are there any crucial differences as to how different countries are implementing the AI policies? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this in some ways, Europe has very high standard, right? We have to, like, we are working with the US customers also, and they are like, okay, you have the servers in our regions, and we will do a pilot. Like, the bar for pilot is much lower. While in the Europe case, even for pilot, you have to be in their VPC, and their account, even using, creating something is very different. And most of players I spoke to had like OpenAI, Microsoft within their cloud environment deployed. In some Asia, people are much open, but I think the cost always comes as a big thing. People are still adjusted to labor prices are low. So we like, okay, we can hire a trainer. We are interested. Let's see, prove the ROI. Versus I think other places, people are more on leap of faith that let's try new thing. We have to do anyway. And like some of the calls we have received has been inbound from outside, like from Europe and US. And that has been really interesting that you don't have to go and sell to, like, we don't have a sales team at this point, but we got these leads because people are going out and trying something new. That has I've seen, but I also worked at Google Cloud, so I know that there are like huge pattern, Europe always has been a tricky for all the cloud providers in the past.
Do you have plans of embedding the video component to it?
Yeah, so multimodal has been one of, we want to be there in a way, taking audio and video input into account. Still, like we could do, but it is very costly for us. Like anytime we put the image into the context. So we have some demo and prototype, but we do not use it in production. But what we are thinking to start with is analysis part. We will take, and that is something people have been asking, that once you do the conversation, let's say for your sales team or for your procurement team, you want that whether they were showing empathy or modulation in the conversation. So we will start with analysis part being multimodal, and then interaction as the model cost goes down, we'll likely switch it on there. But one thing we are doing is taking a bet on speech-to-speech model and multimodal model, that even if they are not there today, like 6 months down the line, I think we are much better suited to take a bet on how this piece evolves because of some of the inherent benefits that it has that I'm happy to report.
Is there a specific model that you find efficient, since we talked about models? I know there are new models coming into the market every other week.
Yeah, in our case, we use mix of models. So for the core voice part, we use speech-to-speech model, which is we switch between Gemini, Flash, OpenAI real-time, and Hume's model. And idea is there that, let's say you use text-to-speech and then LLM and plus speech-to-text. Let's say you are subting or you are saying something in an odd way, the transcript will not capture it. But we want our models to capture those things. And second thing is we want it to be reasoning heavy work in a way that you say some concept, it has to understand, respond effectively. So we can't go to for Sesame and other models, which are really good in amplifying so emotions, but reasoning wise not that great. So we are taking bet, at least in the voice part, these reasoning heavy model, which speech to speech. For analysis part, we want, again, the reasoning model. So we are using Claude or O3. We were using now Switch to O4 Mini there, where once we have the transcript, we want to analyze and give you good output that what you did right and what you could improve. And in between, we sprinkle like any model. For example, to generate the prompt, as you write, we provide auto filling of the scenarios and other. There we are less, mostly like how fast it is a good criteria because user is right there and we want to finish it. Where Gemini Flash is pretty good in terms of speed and the cost that we get at this point. But Grok and all are catching up fast, so we'll see in the future how it goes.
For someone who's looking at this video, thinking about, hey, this is a cool idea, and I have a cool idea too. What would be your suggestion for someone who wants to build startups?
Yeah, let me think. I think first option that I have learned in my sort of couple of products that I have built, like building in public is really helpful. So even if let's say you start with a really bad version, like putting yourself out there that okay, some people will not like it, you might get an odd message, but getting that feedback, everyone keeps saying that, but you need to follow it to the T, post about it within the network, Reddit community, or whichever channel you find. Finding the channel is also tough. Some people don't even have the LinkedIn network and all. Then WhatsApp or use your social network to just message people that this is what I'm building. And finding 5 people at least in the starting who might find this helpful is really important, right? Because that sustains the motivation. Like a lot of time I've tried building, and what has happened is if you don't have 5, 10 people telling you something, then your motivation drops. And are you building the right thing? Like all those questions comes up. So finding at least like 5 to 10 people who are there is really important and will give you initial momentum in terms to get started. The second thing I would say is once you are building the product, a lot of other things takes care. Once you have 10 customer and like some momentum, other things start falling in. I have people who reached out to me and helped me in certain problem, or you start finding people who are technically interested in solving, working with you, which again is a byproduct of building in public. Because you are out there, you are struggling or you are growing, whichever is someone could relate to your journey and will join you. So I think that also takes care of the second part. But somewhere I think third part comes in is you have to also have a period of reflection that you have been continuously building. Where do you fit now? It does not have to come in the first 10 days or like in the first week, maybe it's just an experimentation. But like AI is exploding in so many ways. Which stack layer do you sit? Is it model layer? Which layer is it verticalized? And are you aligned with long-term, some good trends? Like we are taking bet on some trends. One trend is, okay, voice-to-voice model, speech-to-speech model will work. Agentic is in the voice not working at present. There is a lot of errors at times, but we are taking a bet that 6 months down the line, the tools will be much better and we are better off with limited strength that we have to go something there. Similarly, multimodal. So you have to take some bet which is not right today, but like 6 months, 8 months down the line could be helpful, because otherwise someone else will just do a hackathon and build within a week. So you need some margin there.
Long-term foresight, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking, do you have any competitors right now in the market for ToughTongue?
Yeah, so in some ways, there are a lot of players building in from different point of view and could be used. The way I see it, the way I find is a bit unique from what I want to build. But I think Vapi and others are pretty close, but they are focused on healthcare and customer support. So they are very telephone or phone based. While we sit there, we also want to enable people and do something on our own, plus enable people to build on us. But we sit in more professional coaching world. If I just look us as building professional coaching content, then all these, there are some tools which are focused on helping you improve communication, which is spot on. I think there's speak.com or a few others, which are building like good first quality content. So then they become the competition. So there is a lot of players in the market. I think our point of view is a bit unique from my standpoint, but to a customer, there is a lot of choices. They can either go to Gemini and directly practice or go to speak.com and others. So we have to stand out that by our point of view, build some more unique solution.
I'm glad you mentioned I was testing Gemini screen share yesterday. I actually met another colleague of mine. Like, we used to work together yesterday. We thought of, hey, he's an expert in building visualization. And then I shared my screen to Gemini, and I asked him, hey, let's see if Gemini can help me build a cool visualization just by giving me suggestions, just by speaking. It actually did not do a good job. I did not understand the context. It did not understand my questions well. So we were thinking, okay, maybe it might take a little more time, just like how you mentioned. Maybe it might take a little more time for it to be much more advanced and much more clear as to what I am asking in terms of building a visualization.
Yeah, all these are, in some ways, people have realized like model layer is slightly getting commoditized, and people are like OpenAI has become a lot more productized, like tools and things. So I think Gemini will keep eating into the major use cases. will have tools, and similarly OpenAI. So you need to be very clear that, okay, which are sort of niche enough and align at least that gives you like 6 to 8 months of breathing space, the way this technology is moving.
You mentioned you have a co-founder, right, for ToughTongueAI. How did you meet him? How do you brainstorm the idea with him?
We were hostel mates in undergrad, so we together at IIT Delhi in India. And then he was with me here in US. So he was at Meta. So we were neighbor and we used to brainstorm ideas. And I was working at that time, like last year, with my coding idea, and Raj was working on Sage AI, which was a healthcare product.
Yeah.
And we both were exchanging notes all the time that how we are building, and we both were not moving, making as much progress. So I think in October around we or September we thought of joining hands and working together. And so we tried first like reviving Archie solution and worked on that code for a while before making a switch in there. Initially, voice felt something that is nascent and whether we will be able to, there's so much things happening in this, but we thought our problem space is unique enough that something interesting could be built. So that's where
I 100% agree, because it's not just limited to one specific domain. Every domain or every other person who wants to speak confidently would have to use something like ToughTongueAI to make them better, to make them sound better. So I think it's a very unique, there is a high addressable market for a solution like ToughTongue. I'm going to go ahead and start using it because I'm not a native English speaker. Oftentimes I run short of words. I run short of expressions. Whenever I put in a situation, I don't know what to answer, where the information is very abstract, discrete, and you have to give a good, thoughtful, convincing answer. So I think, yeah, go ahead.
And in the moment when you are experiencing, it's very painful, right? Let's say you have tomorrow a meeting and you are not prepared, or you have a visa interview and things, and it's a very small but like very UX friendly button to practice and do. I think a lot more people would be taking advantage. Like there are some stats that only 5% of the top company employees generally take training in communication or executive coaching, but a lot more could benefit because it's very costly, like $1,000 per hour or 800 to 1,000 and something. So if you bring the cost down, I think a lot more people would benefit.
Okay. Have you gone through any funding rounds? If you don't want to answer, we can skip this. Just curious.
No, we have not gone through a funding round. In some ways, initially we were able to make progress without it, but now we are having some conversations.
That's perfect. Any success stories you've heard either through your platform or personally reaching out to you and saying, hey, Ajitesh, I used your platform and it changed everything?
Yeah, I received a lot of emails from people who got jobs through it. And initially, I was focused on product management because I had that background. So I created like a lot of scenarios, and that post had around 200,000 impressions. So that I received a lot of feedback that, okay, I got the interview and did really well. But one of the story that stood with me was one company in Eastern Europe. They took our API and iframe and created a Telegram app for visa prep and small talk practice for people in Eastern Europe without even speaking to me, like just looking at our documentation and other. And then they reached out to me that, okay, I have this query that how to do particular, like very nitpick thing. And I was like, oh, this is amazing that you could do all of this in Telegram. I don't even understand it. So that was the power of giving people tools to do things because they understand their audience, and Telegram is suitable in that geography, which we could not have. Yeah.
That's a really great story. Thanks for sharing that. This is fantastic. I've had a pleasure talking to you, Ajitesh. Really great product. Appreciate taking time and talking to me on this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for speaking to me. Really appreciate it.